And welcome back to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com. Now, Lee and I had the pleasure this week of heading along and checking out an amazing show called Matador that is on at the Melbourne Meat Market. And this is a mixture of dance, burlesque, circus, but it celebrates everything of the Spanish culture and takes you into the world of the Matador. Now, there is a little bit of a loose storyline here. It basically tells the story of a character called Lunalita, and she is in a relationship with a Matador. Now, there are all different relationships that you see all throughout this production. There's other characters as well. There's the flirty Aurora. There's also Magenta, who is kind of more of a dominatrix style character, but it basically looks at love and all the different forms that love can take within a relationship. We're going to chat in a little bit to the director, creator of this show, Bass Pham, and he'll tell us a little bit more about that. But Lee, what did you think of this production? Because it brings together so many different forms of art into the one performance. What did you think?
I loved it. Loved it. I have to say, this is the most extraordinary spectacular I've probably ever been to. With out of this world choreography, Spanish dancing, aerial work such as the rings and ribbons, back-to-back high energy performances, along with some slower moving scenes as well. I really honestly sat there astounded and thoroughly entertained after each of the scenes. And I think, as you said already, each character had their own intriguing storyline. I was mesmerized by many of the characters and the skill and charisma of them. And they were able to exude intense feelings and emotion to tell their character's story. They put their heart and soul into their performances without a need to use dialogue through the show. I love the costumes too. They were beautifully made and so creative. I actually found myself in the intermission looking online at costumes and burlesque clothing because I loved it so much. The other thing I really loved was the atmosphere. When you first actually arrived to the venue, they have live Spanish music, and the setup of the room was pretty amazing too. You will see that the stage comes out into where alongside where kind of in the middle of where some of the tables are. So I just love the setup of the room as well. It just brought that real atmosphere as soon as you arrived. I personally would recommend that if you're thinking of going and getting tickets, to try and get tickets at the table section near the stage. I think it's called the Flirt Zone.
Yeah.
But
why is it called the Flirt Zone, Lee? Can you tell us a little bit about what happens during the show?
Well, I'll just say because there's a lot of burlesque in it.
Yeah, but also the performers do get very, very close to the audience. So at one point, I had the lead performer Miranda was probably standing just a couple of centimeters away from me. Yep. While still performing. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out with this show. You quite often find yourself making eye contact with the stars of the show, which doesn't normally happen with these kinds of shows.
And we weren't actually sitting at the tables. We were up in the seating section above. So, they still did come up the steps into the audience a little bit. But even there's Spanish food and drinks available for purchase.
Sangria, everybody.
Yes. And I bought paella and calamari, which was amazing.
And I had the chorizo, which was also amazing.
Yeah, so I think just the whole atmosphere is really well thought out. I really would love to see the show again, actually. And hope the Matador family also do other shows in the future, because I'd really love to see with what they would come up with next, because this was just out of this world. It was amazing. And to Bass Pham, I think I'd like to say you should be so proud of what you and your Matador family have achieved. You've created a spectacular show. It is a sort of show that if you were thinking about coming from interstate, if it wasn't playing near you, that it is actually really well worth the trip of doing the whole get a motel and come and see such a spectacular show. I cannot speak highly enough about the level of performance, the outstanding dancing, the emotions that were portrayed through that, and the aerial work. Yep.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty lucky here in Melbourne because, of course, this show has been on at the Sydney Opera House and it's been on at Adelaide Fringe. I think we're kind of lucky here in Melbourne because Bass has been able to rework this show to fit its environment. So for those that have never been to the meat market here in Melbourne, it's a theatre space that's like no other. It captures that old world Melbourne feel. There's cobblestones and everything all throughout the venue. So when you walk in to see Matador, you're basically in that environment straight away because there's sangria welcoming you at the door. You can smell the food as soon as you walk in as well. And it literally feels like you're walking down an alleyway in Barcelona and suddenly you find yourself in this kind of underground burlesque or cabaret club. It just has this amazing feel to it, which I don't think I've ever felt in a theatre show before. I don't think I've ever been to a theatre show that uses and captures its environment that it's in as well as what this show does. The performances themselves is absolutely amazing. I realized when I was talking to Bass to do the interview, this show runs for 3.5 hours. And you don't realize that when you're watching it, like you're just so captivated with the performances. There's so much going on as well. I think it's one of those shows you could go and see 2 or 3 times and you would see something different every time. The other thing I really loved about these performers is that there is such emotion in this, and even though there's no dialogue and it's all dance and circus and burlesque, every one of the performers has like their own character. Like you heard me say before that the character of Aurora was kind of was flirty. There's something about that performance, like it's just the way the character is played that it feels like there's something there. Like Amara, the performer who plays that role, there's something about what she does with that role. She makes a lot of eye contact with the audience, and there's a little bit of an element of a tease with her character as well. But every single one of the characters in this has their own sense of characterization. Like I said before, Magenta is kind of more the dominatrix style. Like she's in the face of like the people that she's performing with, and she takes control. But there's also heart in this. You can feel that the performers that have come together for this show are performing with real heart and real passion. You'll hear me say later in the interview that there's one point where there's heartbreak in the story, and Miranda, the performer, is crying when she's performing that dance. Like, you just don't see that so often these days in theatre, and I found that was just absolutely amazing. I want to go back and see this show as well because I think I would just notice different things every time I went. The acrobatics is amazing. The burlesque is stunning. The costume and music is just out of this world. It sounds like I'm raving about this show, and I am, because I absolutely loved it. So if you do want to go along and check out Matador, it is on at the Melbourne Meat Market. Go online, grab some tickets to it, because this is an absolutely once-in-a-lifetime experience that you're going to go through. Grab your food, grab your drink, sit down and watch the show, and you're just going to be absolutely blown away. Is there anything you wanted to add, Lee, at the end, or?
I think we should score this one because it's just amazing. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5. I was mesmerized by the characters, the skill and charisma of the actors, dancers, and directing of it was obviously outstanding. So I could not really think of anything to make it better because it is more than you would even expect. Like, it's beyond expectations.
Definitely. I'm going to give it 5 stars as well. I think this is one of the best theatre productions I have ever seen in my life. It just absolutely blew me away. The performances, the atmosphere, everything all coming together, just absolutely amazing. And if you want to grab tickets to it, go to Ticketmaster's website and grab tickets to Matador, because I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. Well, I know it's amazing because I've seen it, so it's going to be stunning. You're going to love it. We're going to listen to a track now from the Matador soundtrack, and then we're going to be back with Bass Fam chatting to us about Matador and how it all came together. You're listening to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com.